All right, here I am. So I got 30 minutes to try to change your lives, right? Is that a big expectation, right? Thank you. I'm a real estate investor. I'm a foreclosure expert. I host a podcast. It's the largest podcast in the U.S. for real estate agents. I have some real estate software companies. I call myself a trend spotter and an opportunist. I've made a bunch of big real estate bets over the past 7 or 8 years, going big at different times and selling at different times. I announce it on Instagram and my podcast when I do it. And if people would have followed along with me, especially January 2021 or some other things, they would have made a ton of money. So all my predictions I like to put online as I'm doing them. When I come up with new business ideas, it's pretty fun. So that's that trend spotter and opportunist. I'm going to talk about some predictions today too. I'm going to really quickly just show my org chart. We might have some time to get into this, but Codie wanted me to put that up there as how I organize my companies and my businesses. So each color, the dark red is one of my businesses. The dark green is one of my businesses. The dark blue is kind of my personal life, my family office, those people. The green on the left is another business. The yellow is another business. And down in the orange are a bunch of businesses that I own but I don't run. It's funny, I found out from a social media post that my title company merged with another title company this week. I saw it on Instagram and I said, what? So there are some businesses that I don't have a whole lot to do with as we get to go through there. But that's the evolution of business. And I'll say this a couple times. I don't want this to overwhelm anybody. I had $0 in 2015. And when I started to grow my businesses, I did them one at a time. The problem with people saying, Aaron has flipped 1,000 houses and he owns 800 houses around Austin and he owns apartment complexes and storage and things like that, and 7 or 8 different businesses, people can go, that's not me. So I want to make sure right away, that's the reason you should listen to me, because it's there. But I don't want it to be unreachable, because it started one house at a time. And it was one house at a time for a while before the snowball started. And some other stuff I do, I like to do a lot of fun stuff that's out there. And so if people follow along with me, I would never say this quote. I would never, for fear of getting canceled. But who liked Noah yesterday? All right, started us off. My new the famous Noah quote, being rich is great, right? Everybody should try it. So I'm not rich enough to actually say it out loud without getting canceled, but Noah can say whatever he wants. But these are some examples of us playing big. That on the right side there, I was on stage with Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier, UFC Vegas. Codie and Chris were out there too. A bunch of us went out there. So we like to go do a bunch of really fun things. So the other side of why we run businesses and why we work hard is so we can play hard and build experiences and have fun meeting people. Let's have some fun. So Codie wants to make sure you 10x your investment by being here. I remember being at an event once. It was a SaaS Academy event, and they said, we're looking for tips. You want to find one big tip while you're here that's going to change your world? And they told us that there was a tip that they said, hey, when people are buying your software, you need a one-click upsell for a 50% off another product. That's a software. That on month 2, it goes back to full price. A really simple tip. And we added that. And every time we get an email that someone did the upsell, me and Curtis and some other guys on the team, we text each other, we celebrate. Sometimes that one-click upsell turns into a $900 upsell. But we make another $50,000 to $100,000 a year from that one little tip, that one thing that we added from a SaaS Academy conference. So you can keep your ears open. I'm going to talk about the domino effect. I've got a cool story about Bill Gates, acquisitions and roll-ups, the value of a mastermind, maybe some trend spotting, maybe some org charts. Depends on if I can talk fast enough. I want to start with this. We are in a financial crisis right now. Absolutely. Stuff is getting crazy. We can see it in our rentals. Where 18 months ago, we were 100% occupied. We were raising rents 15% year over year. And right now, we're 90% occupied. And so when you have 800 units and you're 90% occupied, you quickly do the math. And you go, okay, so we have 90 units that we should be averaging $1,500 a month. Right? So how much less are we making right now? So we're making $120,000 a month less than we should be. So that's a big deal that's out there. But we see people's debt, people's credit cards are maxing out. Finances are happening. You guys have to be feeling it. If people are saying they're not feeling any change right now in the market, they're lying, right? So we are all in a financial crisis. Even the wealthiest and most successful among us are seeing big changes with things. But the thing I want to tell you that somebody taught me a long time ago is never waste a crisis. right? Like crisis is when big things happen. When I built my first business, it was in 2009, one of the biggest crises ever. But I remember, so a few times that I've used this to my advantage. 2013 was the first time, so from 2009 to 2013, we flipped 1,000 houses. We delivered millions of dollars in investor profits. But then in 2013, when Blackstone came and put us out of business, we had to, for the first time, go to our investors and say, you lost money this quarter. And I remember my partner saying, we are not going to waste this crisis. We already have to go, it's already a crisis. We have to go give the people the bad news. So like, what else are we going to do? So we used that opportunity to also renegotiate all of our further stuff. Like, hey, not only did we lose money this time, but the world is never going to be the same. You guys making 15 to 20 to 25% a year isn't going to happen anymore. If you guys want to keep investing in us as we move forward, the best we're going to get is these 6% annual returns. So we use that time to renegotiate everything going forward. I mean, when COVID hit, everybody did it. Restaurants were like, hey, we didn't like printing out menus anyway. Let's go to the QR code. Like, there's still QR codes in places. Obviously, we don't need that, but it's easier, right? People laid off people like crazy when COVID hit. It's a great time where you can blame the crisis. Like, you can do so many things in your lives and your businesses right now and blame the crisis. And I would say do it. So anything that you can think of. So opportunities inside your bills. It's a great time to go, like, so every time we have, like, quarterly, we renew our HubSpot. It's like a CRM that some of you guys may have, or some of you guys, it's incredibly expensive. It's like $9,000 a quarter for our CRM software. And every time there's bad news, I call and I renegotiate our deals with them. And we go, oh, we need $1,000 off. We need $2,000 off. With one of our data providers a couple months ago, we said, hey, this is happening. We're losing subscribers. We have a $30,000 a month subscription with them. I said, I need to pause the subscription for 6 months. Like, we just need to do this. It's like, don't waste the crisis. So we're going to save $180,000 over the next 6 months. They go, okay, we'll tack it onto the back of it. Well, this is a subscription we're going to have for the next 50 years. Right? So they can tack 6 months onto the back of it. I don't care. I'll keep doing that forever. So every time I renegotiate, I take those, I tack them onto the back. We're building businesses that we're going to sell someday or that are going to last forever. So anytime you can renegotiate and go, hey, we'll extend the contract for that. So renegotiate your bills, look at your bills, see what's out there. Contracts and leases, especially like the commercial office space. We have a really nice office. We were paying $10,000 or $11,000 a month for. And we gave our notice that we were moving out. And then about a month ago, when it was time to move out, I said, hey, have you rented out our spot yet? Because if not, why don't you let me stay there month to month for super cheap? You can kick me out at any time. Because I know, because I analyze office markets and commercial markets, they aren't going to rent our spot out anytime soon. And so I took the bet. Hey, why don't you let me stay there? And now 9 months ago, they were very aggressive. They wouldn't sell me the building. They thought they were definitely in control. And when they emailed back and they said, how much of a discount are you looking for? So go from $11,000 a month to $7,000 a month on a month-to-month. And I don't think we're going to be moving out anytime in the next year. Right? So don't waste the crisis. And the other part of that is taking action at the ideal strike time. You don't always know when that ideal strike time is, but it's usually when everyone is feeling pain or on the verge of it. Most of the time, people's fear of what's going to happen is worse than what's going to happen. So when the fear point is at the absolute ideal, that's when you strike a negotiation. You'll see it in the news. You'll see it as people are talking. You'll see it in the way they're acting. So that that height of fear is when you try to make your renegotiation happen. All right, so find businesses and opportunities where safe singles might become a home run. Now, this is a real estate story that turned into something else, but it applies toward your guys' businesses too. So slow and steady isn't sexy, but it works. So I'm going to talk about my vertical versus horizontal income for a second. 2005, I'm a home builder. I think everything's great. I'm going to do a really fast version of a story that maybe we get into later, or there's tons of podcasts and other stories when I've been on stage about it. I'm a home builder. Life couldn't get better. I'm golfing 2 or 3 days a week at the height of the housing boom, making 6 figures right out of college, having a really unfair expectation of what life's going to be. Housing market crashes. We lay off 70 out of 75 people. We're now doing manual labor. Our stuff got cut in half. Like, no fun. I discovered courthouse step foreclosures in 2009 in Sacramento. I was the first person to do it at scale. When I showed up at auction there was 3 people bidding at auction and hundreds of houses selling. And these were onesie, twosie, mom and pop people that had never done anything at scale. Well, I was just running a giant home builder. So in 2009, I said, whoa, I think I can really, really scale this. So from 2009 to 2012, I flipped 1,000 houses, made millions and millions of dollars, and millions of dollars for my investors. But I was thinking vertical, not long term. When people were buying rentals, I would say, why would I buy that house as a rental to make $100 a month when I can make $20,000 right now? Doesn't make any sense at all. Why would I need a rental? So during that time, I didn't have guides. I didn't have mentors to teach me. And we wasted just a crap ton of money thinking that the $200,000 or $300,000 a month I was making was going to happen every month. So that was never going to change. Blackstone came to me, offered to buy my company. They said, hey, we're going to come buy you. We're getting into the single-family rental space. If you're not going to join us, we're going to put you out of business. I said, you're not going to put me out of business? 29-year-old guy, self-made. I was too cocky. I should have just Googled, who is Blackstone? It's the things that you learn by being part of a mastermind. Okay, so then quickly, all of a sudden, they put me out of business because for 9 months, I kept paying my heavy overheads, having people there. And I remember thinking when I went from millions in the bank to none, the last time I couldn't make payroll, because I was also too proud to lay people off. I'm like, no, we'll buy a house next week. We'll buy a house next week. And I remember thinking, if I'd have just kept 100 of those 1,000 houses, I'd be set for life. What was my problem? So then, 2015, for 2 years, I'm broke. I'm going to be an Uber driver, requesting to be the building inspector of City Napa. Again, went from making hundreds of thousands of dollars a month to nothing, to being in debt, to going, okay, now I got to go back and get a regular job. But man, God blessed me with, I ended up being at an auction in Texas for a longer story than we have today. And while I'm standing there, nobody is standing there. And I go, oh my God, this is like California 2009. My mantra was, if I ever get another chance, I'm going to do this, 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 this. And then I go, this is my second chance. This is crazy. All right, so I start flying out to Texas every month. And now I'm buying 10 houses a month. And I put renters in them, and I fly back. And I come out again, do it the next month. And that's hard work. I'm spending a week a month away from family, friends, everything, staying at the Shiloh Inn up in Killeen, driving houses, doing all sorts of crazy stuff. Can barely afford to do it. And after a year, I'm like, wow, I have 100 houses. But I was only making $5,000 a month even at that time. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? This is a lot of hard work. When is this really, really going to pay off? Right? But I was trying to focus on long-term versus short-term. So as you guys build your businesses, long-term versus short-term. When COVID hit in 2020, I had between 500 and 600 houses all in Central Texas. Well, in Central Texas, prices went through the roof, and those houses doubled and tripled in value. So short and steady isn't sexy. But sometimes that short and steady can turn out to be a home run. And that happens if you're buying your businesses and maybe you start acquiring other ones. Maybe something changes in the industry that makes the values go up. So there's a lot of ways that you can do safe bets and have a high upside, and that's what I think you should do with your businesses. So real estate, safe bets with huge upside, but make sure they are safe bets. And it works with businesses. You want to find what's my safe bet that has a possible upside. All right. And you're also going to expand into some related businesses. I'm going to tell some stories about how I got there quickly. I met a guy last night. He's here for the Afrotech conference. He was a barber a few years ago. And he said, this system is really crappy. When people are trying to schedule, they're calling in, they're writing it down, they're not showing up, we're telling someone else we're full. And this guy goes, we should create an app for this. And he created a simple scheduling app. So people could go to his barbershop, and they could book online, and they could prepay for their $15 a haircut. Cool. Maybe someone else wants this technology. Maybe someone else wants this technology. It's in 6,000 barbershops now. He raised last year, he got $250 million given to him on a $750 million valuation. Now it's at $1.5 billion when I was doing the math with him last night. And 3 years ago, he was a barber and said, hey, there should be some better technology for being a barber. So I promise you guys, as you're inside your businesses, you're going to say, there should be a system for this. There should be some other way that we can do this. And come to me and come to Codie, and we'll have my software team build something, and we'll try to make something amazing. Because when that barber guy, I was super inspired last night. But that's the reality. You guys are in those businesses where so many people have talked about technology can make it better. So quickly how I expanded. I went from owning single-family houses to owning a property management company to I bought the data company that I was subscribing to. I remember when I got put out of business in California, I thought the only person winning is the guy selling the software here, because hundreds of us were now bidding on 3 houses. When I started business in California, 3 people bidding on hundreds of houses. We took our pick. There were times I'd be like, I'm not going to get out of my chair. You guys have this one. I'll get the next one. By 2012 hits, there's hundreds of people there, only 2 houses selling. What happens when 200 people are bidding on 2 houses? The price goes through the roof. I hate competition. And I thought the guy owning the software is the best. So in 2017, I wanted to hedge my bets, and I was able to buy the software company that I was buying the foreclosure data from. I said, right now I'm buying houses whenever I want. I'm the biggest player in Texas. But someday I'm not going to be, because there'll be hundreds of people here. So I want to be the one selling them the software. So I went from subscribe. So a good company to buy is one that you're buying their service already. And then I created a software company. I had to build software. The big red section of my original org chart, I should mention, somebody talked about outsourcing. We have probably 10 people in the Philippines on that org chart. We've got 14 people in India on our software team, and then the rest are stateside. Became recurring revenue companies. I got my podcast, title company, multifamily, storage, all related. Most of my businesses are all real estate related, but they're software, they're brick and mortar, all sorts of things. The other thing with your businesses you want to consider, like, can you increase revenue without increasing expenses? But we saw some talk about that yesterday. But that could be the one-click upsell in the cart. Like, what is it something that you can charge more for that is 100% margin? And there's got to be some of that. That could be like subscription services, knowing they're not going to come every month. There could be like pre-selling coupons that you know that over time, again, anything you can push to the back end, take in money now that the expense is in the back end. Most of the time, people don't come back with that stuff. I've been obsessing over this. So first, you need to focus on a product, but when you start to expand, you guys should think about this. In 2008, this was Apple's revenue. The Mac was most of their revenue. The iPod was about half of that. And the iPhone was this teeny little portion of their revenue. And then, so 2008, they sell a lot of iPhones. 2009, housing market crash, economics are horrible, like what we might be going into right now. Nobody could afford a $1,000 iPhone anymore, so it took a couple years for it to come back. But then by 2010, they're selling more iPhones than Macs. And by 2011, they're selling more iPhones than anything else they sell. And now check this out. So as Apple's continued to grow, within 2 years, they're going to be making more money on streaming services than they are on selling the Mac or the iPhone or the iPads. So how does Apple do it? They start with their leading thing that's making them a bunch of money, and then they're selling us other products. Everybody that owns a Mac also wants a phone. Well, everybody that owns a phone also has this. Oh, everybody also has TVs. So if you have a product or something, it started with me so our foreclosure product was like investors that want to buy houses in foreclosure. But then we wanted to build a software that said, hey, all these guys want to buy real estate, so is there something else we can sell them? Like for the people that aren't going to buy foreclosures, they came to us to buy foreclosures, they found out this was hard. Well, what else can we sell them? So selling them CRM, selling them courses, things like that. So when you think about your business too, it's really easy to go, well, I want to do that, and I want to do that, and I want to do that. But I would encourage you to do it like Apple. First, they made sure one business was really, really profitable. And then they came up with products or mergers or things that they could sell to those same customers. But I've been obsessed with this model. And that's what we're doing right now in our own companies. We're trying to figure out how we can extend more of the green, blue, red stuff. Our bottom profit margin on our biggest company, it just grows every month. But the biggest months we've had is when we've had a bunch of sales from our other companies instead. So this is one of my biggest lessons. I'll just jump through really quickly. The blue line is income, and the green line is net worth. I cut this off a couple years ago because the chart gets too tough to read. But 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012, I'm making millions of dollars, and I'm not investing anything. So that green net worth line is staying really small. It's smaller than what I'm earning. Your net worth should be growing faster than your income if you're investing properly and you're doing your businesses. But I was thinking too short term. And it came in 2015, 2016, 2017. I was making the same amount of money, but I was thinking for long term instead of short term. So my asset values and my investments and my net worth skyrocketed. So again, think long term instead of short term. Now, if you can't pay your bills, which is why most people start their businesses, now you guys wouldn't be able to come here if you couldn't. But really, the reality is you want to make enough vertical income to cover what you need to survive and live and build. But beyond that, start investing. Start stretching to get to do the other stuff. Because I get to do all that fun, crazy stuff now because for years, I was flying coach to Texas and staying in cheap hotels and driving houses and buying those houses. All right, so the next topic, really. Maybe we've talked about it a little bit, so I'll only touch it for 30 seconds. So I made the mistakes I did because I was doing life and business alone. So I'm a member of GoBundance. I joined the GoBundance Mastermind back in 2015 when there were maybe 40 of us members. Now there's like 1,000. Now it's huge. It's pretty crazy. And for the first time, I was able to speak openly with people. Like I couldn't ever get in line and talk to other parents at my kids' school. Be like, man, I lost $1 million last year. Or hey, I made $200,000 on this deal. Every conversation that I wanted to be having, I couldn't be having. I had to like quiet my stuff. Oh, how are you? How's your work? Oh, everything's fine. How's your work? All right, everything's fine. So what I love about rooms like this is you could say, I'm buying an $8 million deal. I'm buying a $1 million deal. I'm stressed about this. I did this, and I've actually lost money on this investment. We can like speak openly and honestly, and then we actually get the feedback that we need. So I tell people too, if I'd had GoBundance in 2009, I would absolutely be a billionaire right now, because I was printing money and had discovered an industry long before anybody else. And if I would have been smart enough to ask mentors of like what to do with all this, instead of thinking like I'm cool as shit. I mean, I've been broke 3 times, and I was like, man, I'm cool as shit. Like I invented this. And if I would have just been cool enough and humble enough to ask for help, I could have done some crazy things. So get advice from people. Here's the key, then follow it. Right? You say, hey, should I do this? And somebody says no. Like there's like maybe 5% of the examples where I know people that didn't follow advice and it worked out great. One of them is a huge example. But also, don't be afraid to ask. And don't be afraid to ask like the Noahs and the people that have big businesses. And say, like shoot your shot. If Codie said, like Codie, there's a few of you guys, I've been part of the conversations where she says, reach out to me about that next week. You better, right? Like if somebody says, hey, next time you're in New York, if you're ever in New York, reach out to me. That happens a lot at these events. If that happens, book a flight to New York and make it up and make sure you're going. It happens a lot. I'll meet people somewhere, hey, if you're ever in Austin, and I am shocked how many don't book flights to Austin like the next week, if they really mean what they say. All right, so important people only have room for a few mentees. So shoot your shot, ask right away, but they all want to say yes. That's part of like the evolution of like happiness and success. Like everybody gets successful, we want to be able to give it away. Like why would Codie make money teaching courses a lot more along with buying businesses? Because it's fun to like give it away. It's fun to go, hey, this is what I did, what's the next thing? That's why like rich people try to get into politics and things like that. So it's the next evolution. So there's somebody you're like, man, I want to learn from them. Go ask right away before they already have 2 or 3 mentees, because everybody's super, super like wealthy and famous and successful. They want to help some people, and some people are waiting. All right, next, really quick. Experiences are investments, and if they're done right, they won't cost you anything. I've got the best courtside seats to the Spurs, so I've got the 2 best ones on the floor, where I get to bring people for experiences all the time. I do UFC VIP experiences where I'm on stage with the fighters all the time. Go all over the world, do all sorts of fun stuff. Like you can see even like some of the festivals that I go to, it's the VIP in the very front when there's 50,000 people behind you. But the way they don't cost you something is you get to create these experiences with people and create these memories with people. And the people that you're rubbing elbows with are also like these people that are like spending money and doing that. And like the people that I met when I was on stage with so that's actually like the Netflix documentary there on the right. If you guys aren't UFC fans, I'm sorry. But like the Conor McGregor Netflix documentary, I'm there on the right. Like I'm up on stage with them during the documentary. It's pretty like proud, fun stuff. So, but you meet people during those things. You never know when it's going to come out, but you want to like get the contact information, follow up with them. And I posted a month ago, hey, I'm going to buy this tower and build this tower in downtown Austin. This lot's for sale, $65 million. And a guy that I was on stage with at the Conor McGregor thing says, our family office has $350 million. Can we meet this week and talk about it? Right? From an event from like 2021. Let's see. All right. Once in a lifetime opportunity. Crisis is happening. In your life, you will come across 2 or 3 once in a lifetime opportunities, guaranteed. Guaranteed. But who cares if you don't take the action? Right? So opportunity combined with action is the ultimate life rocket fuel. When I showed up to auction in 2009 in Sacramento, there was 3 people bidding on hundreds of houses. I could have said, foreclosures are hard. This business doesn't make sense. There's no course for it. I need to teach myself. Instead, I said, what can I do here? How big can I get it? When I flew out to Texas in 2015, pretty easy scenario. Nobody's standing here at auction. My second once in a lifetime opportunity. But I also had to fly to Texas for a week a month for the next 5 years. Right? So you have these once in a lifetime opportunities. How does it matter? So the interesting story about Bill Gates. Right? You guys have probably heard some of this story. So Bill Gates went to one of the only high schools in the world that had a computer. In 1968, there was 303 million high school age people. 18 million of them lived in the United States. 270,000 of them lived in Washington. 100,000 lived in Seattle. 300 of them attended Lakeside School. So out of 303 million people, he was one of 300 that could have built Microsoft. Right place at the right time. 1 in a million high school age students attended that school. And Bill Gates happened to be one. So sometimes people credit that to Bill Gates. Right? But there was 299 other kids there that could have had that same access and didn't. So you're going to have these once-in-a-lifetime opportunities, but you better take action, right? And Bill Gates happened to be one of them. All right, I've got about 5 minutes left on content before we jump into questions. I'm going to jump through some stuff. Mergers and acquisitions. So if you own one company, this will be after you own your first one. This will be the best and easiest way to make a ton of money in your business and increase revenue. The easiest way to, so I'm going to do a story of a quick merger. So one of my companies, foreclosure listing service, right? So pre-acquisition. So Roddy's is the one on the left. Our revenue was $1 million. Our profit was $300,000. So we were worth anywhere between $3 million and $5 million back then for that company. Rex was a company we were buying. They were much smaller. They only had $150,000 in revenue. Their profit was $25,000, right? So the valuation on profits, the most he was going to be worth was $150,000. But the crazy thing was, so to him, it was worth $150,000. So I bought that company, but I bought just the revenue. I didn't need any of the expenses. They were a direct competitor in what we had. I didn't need any of their employees, any of their work. We were selling the same exact product. So I found somebody who was selling the same exact product that was a competitor, and I bought them. And then we had the documents, and none of their employees could create the same business and could compete against us. So it cost me $150,000 to buy that company. Well, that company, I bought $150,000 in profit for $150,000, right? So it paid itself off in the year, really paid itself off every month. So when you look at the models of the valuations, so my valuation on my company on the far right went from $3 million to $4.5 million, or $5 million to $5,750,000. So at a minimum, it went up $750,000 in value. Could have gone up as much as $1.5 million, and it cost me $150,000. So mergers and acquisitions are totally fascinating, especially if you can find ones that are like different subscription services with a highly marginalized thing, or where you can buy mostly revenue without the expenses. Another example would be like two shops next to each other, like two mailing centers right next to each other, right? If you buy them and close that down, now you no longer have competition. You don't have the two rents, the two anything. So that company is worth more to you if you're just buying their revenue than the person selling it. That guy's like, I'm barely making $25,000 a year. This business sucks. And I'm like, that's $150,000 in profit. I'm taking it today. The higher the revenue, the higher the multiple. That's what some guys are talking about. So just keep on merging. So if you're making $1 million a year, maybe you're a 3 to $5 million to 5 multiple. But if you're making $10 million a year, $100 million a year, that's when you get those really, really crazy multiples. It doesn't make any sense, right? But you could buy $10 million companies, and they're all trading at like a 2x. But once you're making $10 million a year, now they're going to trade at a 10x. There's businesses in simply just merging a bunch of companies, even if you do nothing else. Now they're all under one roof, so now your gross revenue is $100,000 a year to $1 million a month or whatever. Just by merging a bunch of companies, you can 10x the value. So you can buy 10 companies into 5x value, merge it, put them all under one roof, now they're worth 10x. Trend spotting on my last couple minutes. This is part of like, man, if you guys are into real estate stuff and into real estate statistics and predictions, I'd say come find me on Instagram, come listen to my podcast, because I'm not going to have enough time to get into it today. You guys don't need to know too much about real estate. You're here for business stuff. But there is crazy stuff happening, right? Like Blackstone wrote off a $483 million commercial building, right? So now it's going into foreclosure. What's crazy is the person that's going to buy that $250 million note is Blackstone. So they're going to let it go into foreclosure, and they're going to buy it with one of their other companies, because they're the only ones that can, right? But like the lender on that's losing $200 million. Another company defaulting on $200 million in loan. WeWork stopped paying their rent like 6 months ago. And now there's a bunch of office buildings, and now they finally said, oh, we're going bankrupt. There's a bunch of office buildings that were leasing to WeWork that are now in foreclosure. They lost one tenant. So that's part of that, like, so maybe there's no housing crash or bubble. Right? There's argument and stuff on a lot of things. There is an office and multifamily crash and bubble coming and happening. And when there's one bubble and one crash, it affects extra stuff. Because that guy has $100 million less than he had before. All right, another thing with trend spotting. This is something that happened in really quickly in apartments and commercial. So in 2021, we'd value everything on a cap rate. So the way that commercial is valued is it's not valued on like the cost of the building. It's valued on how much money is it making, divided by how much should an investor make on their money. So when interest rates are low, you could say, oh, if I have $1 million, it'd be reasonable for me to make 5% on my money. Well, now that you can actually make 6% by just putting it in a bank account, no one's going to invest $1 million to make 5% on real estate. They go, oh, well now if I can make 6% in a bank account, I need to make like 8% if I'm going to buy real estate with something risky. So this was a story that's happening a lot right now. In 2021, somebody buys an apartment complex for $10 million. They've done everything right. They've increased rent from $500,000 to $550,000, right? So from there to now, and they're going, and when they bought it, they got a loan of $8 million, 80% LTV, 2-year loan. They said, I'm going to go add value to this thing. Now 2023 hits, the net income went up, but the cap rate went up too. So now it appraised at $7.3 million. And their lender says, your $8 million loan is due. We're getting a lot of calls from apartment owners right now that are saying, hey, can you buy us out? Can you take our building? We can't because it's only worth $7.3 million. So what happened to the $2 million down payment on that $10 million building? Poof. It's gone. That is the whole point of why the Fed raises rates. It's mostly to affect the commercial and the office stuff because it's the quickest way to extinguish huge amounts of money out of the system. So now if that guy has $2 million less, which is probably syndicators and investors like you people that gave your friend 50 grand, and now everybody has $50,000 less. So that's why there's more and more of that crisis coming. Without government intervention, that bubble will pop. It'll affect other things. Quickly, 2009 was the last time our charts looked like this for the Fed funds rate. The gray section is recessions. So the longest recession we've seen was right after the last time the Fed funds rate looked like this at this height. So September 11th was the first time ever that the Fed started being used as a weapon. Before September 11th, rates were like between 6 and 8% forever. And it was just normal. People were okay with it. September 11th happened. It was a crisis. And they said, oh, my God, you know what we should do? We're going to lower the rates. We're going to tell everybody to refinance their houses and go buy a boat. They said, there's these old videos of Greenspan going, like, you need to go refi your house and spend the money to increase. You owe it to your country to refinance your house and waste the money on something. Right? And everybody did. And in 2009, a bunch of people got foreclosed on. So, and then COVID happened, and the Fed did the same thing. Let's use the Fed funds rate as a weapon. Let's make it super low. I think now they've learned, and they're going back to the way it was in the 90s. So I don't think we're ever going to hit 5% rates in the next 10 years. I study this stuff like crazy. I think for real estate, we're going to see between 6.5% and 8% for the next 5-10 years. Because now they've learned at the damage, and now that everything's kind of been reset, why would they lower it back down? They don't need to. They'll punish real estate more than they'll punish other stuff. So like I said again, returning to the 90s, this is the amount of home sales that are happening right now. Historic lows, lowest amount of homes sold ever since 1997 will happen this year. Think about all the mortgage brokers and people that were printing money. They used to be able to call their friends and say, refi your house, you're going to take $100,000 out and your payment's going to go down. And everyone's like, cool. How hard is that to sell? Right? So the mortgage brokers were just printing money. They're gone. I'll jump through my last couple and jump into questions. I won't be able to hit everything today. Trend spotting, though, rates will stay high. Real estate and business loans and lines of credit will stay high. Values of companies today are worth at least 30% less than they were 2 years ago in any industry that you're in. So if you're looking at value of buying a multifamily, if you're looking at buying another business, you're down 30% from where you were 2 years ago, no matter what. Amazing opportunities, though, for seller financing in real estate and business. I know that's some of the stuff that Codie teaches you guys. I would say go deep on that and know the values are down, and so buyers have the bargaining power. People are bringing me these apartment deals going, should I buy it? I'm like, only if it's 30% less than it was before. My two favorite things is don't fall in love with a deal. I've heard a lot of people, a lot of you guys that I've talked to are discouraged because you've been writing offers on stuff for the past 6 months. You don't have a deal yet. I tell you what, the best deals I ever did were the ones I walked away from before losing a ton of cash. Real estate's also a numbers game. If I'm going to buy a house at auction, I start with 100 houses scheduled, and I drive by all of them, and I comp all of them, and I do title on all of them, and we show up to auction, and we hope to buy one. Right? If you write an offer on a company, and it's your first one, and they accept it, you should run. Like, if your offer gets accepted quick, you're offering too much. It's a bad deal. Like the unicorn stuff, if you've made 2 or 3 offers and you've been underwriting and you're discouraged because it didn't go through, make more offers. Like it should be making 10 offers, 20 offers, 30 offers. Because if you're only getting 1 out of 30 offers accepted, I know you're getting a screaming deal. If you're getting 1 out of 3 offers accepted, you're paying too much no matter what. So don't get discouraged if you've only written 3 or 4 offers and you haven't got one yet. I'm very happy for you. Because if you've only written 3 or 4 offers and you have 2 or 3, And sorry for the people that might have this story that did and they want to be excited, be a little nervous. Don't fall in love with a deal, and then it's a numbers game. All right, I knew that I might not have time to get into the org chart stuff today, so that's the skip. I love Instagram. I love chatting with people on Instagram. I love talking about all sorts of different stories. You can find me there. I've got a link, meet-Aaron. I do like weekly webinars on real estate. I do real estate meetups. I go talk about other stuff too. But that's it. Let's open it up for questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Aaron. Round of applause for Aaron. Shout out for Aaron's Instagram. By the way, this QR code will take you, if we can go back and leave his QR code for Instagram, that QR code will take you to his Instagram. He does a really good job sharing knowledge on his stories and adding really like actionable stuff. Really, really good share on the social. I see a question all the way in the back. I'm coming back there. Get ready for this. All right.
Hello, I'm Lazaro. You're going to be my mentor one day. I don't know how, but we're going to figure it out. One of the reasons I probably haven't purchased the business because I watch too much UFC. My question for you, though, so many reasons to connect. I have a real estate portfolio. What is keeping you up at night nowadays?
Employees are kind of the most difficult challenge as businesses get bigger, especially when times start to get tougher, because not everybody manages their money properly. And so there's a big thing that happens right now as stuff gets tighter, is employees can no longer afford to live the way that they want to live or should live. And there's a balance of who's responsible for that. Is it the employer or is it not? So it's a very stressful thing for me right now, seeing that I see some of my employees are like, hey, we can't make it to work today because we can't afford gas. And there's this balance between, is it time for another bonus or is it a personal decision on expenses? So that's always the hardest thing of business. And then the other thing, frankly and sadly, like I make a ton of money on my rentals, but doesn't feel like enough because in 2021, I was doing these giant real estate bets that were paying off like crazy every month. And that's my fun money. And I have my horizontal income's fine right now, but I don't have as much fun money, and so I'm trying to figure out what to replace that with. And then we also had like a couple, real estate flips at the wrong time. So stuff will keep me up. It's mostly employees and their well-being at a time when times are tight. Thanks for the question.
Super good question. Let me hear one more question. I see one up front, and then I see one over there. I'm coming after.
I'm Jeff. I saw that you have written about the bloodbath is coming. So, how do you take advantage in the bloodbath, basically?
Yeah. There's two things. You could figure out where that fear is going to help you, right? So it's renegotiating our office rents, knowing that it was going to get cheaper with that, on different sorts of commercial, as people are like, as these notes are coming due. Like some people are willing to pay, like essentially willing to sell it just to avoid foreclosures. Probably some of the biggest opportunities, we haven't really figured out what it's going to be yet in the bloodbath. Because like in commercial and office, values are going to go way, way down. So anything that's commercial and office related. And with real estate, it'll go up over time. The problem is when it goes up faster than it's supposed to, then it comes back down to correct. And that's where we're seeing a lot of these experiences. Because that same $10 million apartment 2 years ago was worth like 2 years before that. So also being able to make sure that you have money and you're prepared and you're writing the deals, and then making sure you're not overpaying for a deal. Because it's going to affect business stuff too. And then also, I think another way you can do it when you're buying businesses that have leases and things like that, it's a decent time to go renegotiate before you buy the business. To say, hey, I'm going to buy this business, and I know they have a lease that they're supposed to pay for the next 2 years, but they're about to go out of business or sell. So renegotiate that lease with me now, and I'll buy the business ahead of time. Otherwise, I'm not buying it, and they're going out of business type stuff.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We're going to wrap up here. Thank you, Aaron.
Cool. Thanks, guys.